All right, so now we have reversed the roles, so it's now your turn to ask questions. So we're going to bring up the LF Networking Governing Board. Specifically, the people we are bringing up here are the founders of the governing board. And you will recognize some of them, obviously, but we want to bring them up so that we can have an open discussion. Anything goes, as I said. So I'm going to call back Dr. Feng, who was one of the original supporters of the projects like ONAP and others. But Dr. Feng, Jonne from Nokia, who, oh, there you go. So please come on in. Dr. Feng, come on over. Jonne, who's one of the original OPNFV and now on the board. And then Christian from Ericsson. And by the way, prepare questions because I'm going to come around and probably bug every table for at least one question. Otherwise, this session will be over in 5 minutes. Although Jonne can keep talking, I know. How are we doing on mics here? Can we get one more mic, please? So, Emily, I'll be walking around, so you can give this mic over. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the session goes. We have one more here. Yeah. All right. Who wants to lead with the questions? I'm going to come around. Any question goes, but again, just remember these are the governing board members who have taken the board, and so maybe I'll give you a warming question. LF Networking is the largest open source networking foundation, sub-foundation, if probably the only one. But and it's been what 8 or 9 years since I've lost count. So first question: why do you keep going? Right, you're one of the original members, founders. So why are you continuing? So that might be the first easy questions, I think. But then who wants to go next? I'll come over. That side? You want to answer that first, and then I'll be ready with the second question.
Okay, I'll start as soon as this is on.
Yeah.
Is it on? Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Yes. Why do we keep on coming back to LFN and why we are members of LFN is so that we feel really that the LFN is a combination of very important projects. It's a community of developers and companies and organizations that are vital for the networking industry, and especially in the open source part of that. So we feel that LFN is really something that brings our company and I think the whole industry a lot of benefit, and also basically drives the industry forward also in the areas where it's active.
Okay. Cool. All right. Questions from here? This is 30 minutes, so if there is no questions, we'll be done early. No, you got to give them some hard time. Okay. Oh, okay. Here, okay. Oh, sorry, you raised it. Okay, you're next.
In your experience throughout your time with LFN, what have been the most successful things that you've seen, and what areas of improvement do you think we could work on?
That's a good question.
Well, I think we've heard a lot about ONAP today. And ONAP is a stable project and it's actually losing a bit of traction for some components. But we're also seeing that it's providing very impressive results for a number of operators today. And I'm happy to see that it's still such actively or in so active use. So that to me is assuring and inspiring.
I think I get quite a lot from Linux Foundation Network because it's a community we truly belong, and it's like compared to some larger conferences, and you have to, sneak through, find the right group, and people who care about the same thing as you do. So I'm thinking it's great to be in that community, and I think Linux Foundation, the way the Arpit leading it, organized the way to make the community quite to stay together. I mean, every time when I attend the board meeting or events like this, you kind of align ourselves with other vendors and other operators and technology providers. So make sure, you know, we're heading collectively in the right direction. And directly do learn quite a lot from the open source software, like somewhat direct, like ONAP, OpenFree, and etc. Somewhat kind of, you get the idea. Some you learn the architecture. I think it's a different level of gain in this community.
And if I may add, so if we look at now the history of LFN and the couple of organizations before that, Open Daylight, ONAP, and OPNFV, just to mention a few of them that were in the original umbrella. I think that one of the key things is really that with LFN, we've brought the networking community, especially the telecommunication networking community, to open source. And that was this was a place where we as an industry learned how to do open source, and then we went to other places as well. But it's good to see also that though this was a little bit of a nursery for us all, the thing is that it has kept its importance, and it's continued to be vital. It's continued to be something that creates new technology. So looking at for something like Nefio, for instance, that is has a great potential, and it seems has a great active community. So it is really something that has brought the networking community together and has brought it to open source.
All right. So, okay. Firstly, I totally agree with what you have just mentioned about. Here, I would like to asking the board and about the future things. So, because of the back to 10 years ago, I mean, this open source, it doesn't really. Today, when we look back, right? So when we look back, this is not independently. I mean, here, I mean, the open source Linux Foundation, this is a purely driving force. Not only from standard. I mean, MV was started, then OpenMV come out later. Then the 3GPP starts discussing the SBA architectures, SBI interface. So this is all related. We cannot separate them. I mean, this is a very also by taking the opportunity like 5G designing opportunity to move forward. So my question here is asking you. Because you are leading the generations of the future here, by summarize what happened in the past is we are not separating any standard and open source or even the industries. So you are the leader for the future because today 6G is coming, right? 6G coming. I attended the 3GPP 6G architecture workshop. When I listened to every company's speech, I heard none of the major vendors are talking about cloud native. Might be the reason is because in the past, right? It's already happened. It's already a success. Because with your job, because with everybody contributing here, but everybody is talking about the future. It's about like AI. I'm asking also Dr. Feng is about because for example, China Mobile is talking about the agentic AI. For the 6G architecture designing there, right? So today your presentation is quite impressive. It looks like you're far ahead of us, like leading the AI direction. So most of the people in the world are still thinking, how can we change today's functionality? How can we change small configuration, small revisions? But for you have to think of, because you are the leaders, you need to consider how could you lead us for the future. What directions, right? That's the chance. Agentic AI is here. 6G is here. we have to repeat what happened in the 5G time frame and to do similar things here to make this society more success. So what's your vision? I'm asking board. So what do you think about what you can do for that? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I won't dare to summarize it. Maybe, I think part of, as you said, the coming here is very inspiring for me as well, talking to the other vendors and the operators and others in the governing board, but also around the tables, etc. The China Mobile, the presentation was absolutely super inspiring. I wish perhaps we could have had more time with that as well. Agents is something that we probably didn't know much about 3 years ago. Now everyone's talking about it. And the question is, was it 1 year ago or half a year ago that everybody started talking about it? I sort of lost track. It moves so quickly. I think that cloud native is something that we're still working on. I think we saw the analyst presentation showing that we have a lot of old technologies that still have to remain in the networks of operators for some time. Agents could be something that brings it together and allows dedicated agents for each sort of vertical technology to manage itself to a degree, perhaps in a hierarchical fashion with agents controlling agents. I'm a bit scared that it's moving very fast, that we will have news articles with security and outages due to unforeseen inter-agent interactions. I usually say that in data or in software technology, the patents are generally from the 50s when it comes to data concurrency and other aspects. And we tend to re-innovate, and we tend to forget sometimes when we make a technology transition. I'm confident that we will together innovate, but I think sharing experiences, sort of as within LF networking, we'll be able to avoid some of those mistakes, hopefully, and get to hopefully a very nice automated future. If you look at agents, I think we're quite focused right now on what goes on in the operator network in the discussions today. Nathan and Sebastian shared the programmatic network future to a degree as well. And for me, it's super exciting to see that when we have APIs, we can quite easily let enterprises, the outside world, start having an agentic interaction with programmatic networks as well. And so it's going to be a very complex world to understand what's going on and to determine if something goes wrong, what went wrong.
Okay, so I'll try to answer another part of the question because there were a few parts in there. So looking at that, what you said about 3GPP and the collaboration between standardization and open source. So it is something that I've said for a long time. So the open source and standardization are something that are different tools in the same toolbox. So standards are important there where you need to define interoperability between different implementations. So for instance, like in the 3GPP radio interface, whereas open source is really good on those where one implementation is enough and you want to standardize the world on that. So both have their roles, and I can only imagine that the cooperation between the both areas will continue to increase. I'm not surprised that in 3GPP there would, in the 6G workshop, that they wouldn't talk much about cloud native, because I don't think that that's necessarily the right place to talk about that. I think that they are more focusing on the radio features and making the radio good, and it's more of an implementation thing than how to implement it in, for instance, in cloud native. And maybe this, so maybe LFN plus other communities like CNCF are better suited then to talk about cloud nativeness than in general. And so in events like today or tomorrow in the telco day, those are places where that is well discussed. Then talking just quickly about the new technologies, AI, agents, and so on. This is something that where we have to be all the time very careful that we follow the newest trends, that we understand how the world is changing, and that we are able to then also follow that. And like my dear colleague here on the left said, the world is now changing very rapidly in terms of technology. And this is something that where we as a what it creates for us as a community challenges to follow that technology as well.
I think I will just emphasize the AI part, especially when yesterday and today about our discussions, no matter the formal discussion or presentation, I think the most happy words is the agent, agentic AI. But myself, if you ask me, I'm gonna remind myself and you probably be careful about the agents, because in industry and in the literature, what's the core definition of agents is the key. I see many different, the definition varies, or the definition, if it's a definition is too abstract, it's hard to get to real meaning. So for example, if we want to have, agents are built on top of larger foundation models. That's the number one assumption. And then you're gonna answer what specific task you want the agent to do. So agent, you can as simple as you can see the agent as the application of large language or a larger foundation model. Based on that, you build different applications. I'm thinking is, if for AI, there are several layers. They have the computing facility, you have the network transferring AI, and then on that layer you have the platform, you have the model. On the model you have all kinds of tools, and then you have the agents or other applications. And the data. If you want to ask what the most intelligence come from, I thinking it's majority, over 95%, come from the foundation model. Other ways, no matter is slow thinking like the solution, DeepSeek proposing and others, and the agents, there are different technology doing agents. I think it's trying to extract intelligence from the foundation layer. But the foundation model itself is quickly changing, evolving, and revolutioning itself. So I'm thinking the agents are changing faster too. So when we're trying to think how we can propose the architecture for 6G or for current network, you want to apply agents into your network, you have to answer what are the key capabilities of the agents. And for agents, it has to have the freedom of censoring, thinking, reasoning, and making decision. And why what kind of freedom you really can give to the agent. So I'm thinking lots of deeper questions need to be answered before we all talk about. Sometimes, I don't know, I feel like lots of words are like hype words, but you want a real game changer versus something hypey. I think it's great to pay attention to this, and maybe we better collectively really think deeper, dive deeper to figure out what agents mean to the current network, the next generation, because I'm thinking AI is kind of ubiquitous, and it's attack, it's a transform almost all scientific fields and all industries. And I think we have to, we come to a new era, have to rethink lots of problems. I even challenge if we're really gonna go follow this path, have 6G and 7G, and whether we need this rhythm or we have different rhythms to change the network.
All right. Very nice. Yeah, so I think the key message is it doesn't matter what the question is. There is a very smart governing board and a developer community. They will solve those questions, right? as a community, right? It might be agents, it might be 9G, whoever knows, right? Anyway, what's the next question? Oh, there, okay. I'll come.
Given that, as you said, the developer community is so important to the Linux Foundation networking, what steps are you taking to improve synergy inside projects and between projects, especially now that the DTFs, the developer and tester forums, are no longer face-to-face?
Jonne, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can take that. So I think that that is actually a really good question. So though that we discussed a lot about technology here now, just before that, you have to remember that in the end, LFN or any open source community for that matter is a bottom-up community, not top-down. So instead of technical topics, we get to do really important decisions like how much funding there is for the coffee break, and which is more on our alley anyways. But the thing is basically, it's not that we made a decision then not to have DNTFs anymore. The thing is that there hasn't been really the last DNTF was not very well attended, but I think that it's most probably time for us, and maybe Arpit, we can take an action point, to have another questionnaire to our community and see if there is an appetite for a technical community meeting. Because I'm so partly maybe the reason why Arpit put it my way, I especially strongly believe that the technical community meetings is that what drives then the work forward. We can do a lot online nowadays, but there is no substitute for people to meeting face to face and actually working together and doing something together. And that is something that we have to see, that how we can do that and see how much appetite there is in the community to have a meeting and to actually then travel to that meeting as well.
Cool. Other questions? This side, while I'm here? Anything goes, okay? Doesn't have to be LFN related. Yeah.
Hello. So what's your favorite tool for doing infrastructure? Ansible, Terraform, or something else? And maybe why?
Now you're testing the limits, technical limits of these guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, like the tools that I know is like PowerPoint and Excel. So
I knew it's coming.
but maybe the others can answer better.
It depends on what you want to try to do.
Oh, well answered.
I leave it at that. No. So I think this is a challenge as well, and sort of we have a lot of fragmentation. And for me, it's typically better to say that these are things that tend to work well, provide examples of things that work well, rather than try to say, no, you cannot use this for some reason. We want to standardize on one thing. Especially, I mean, with the technology waves coming so fast, as the minute we standardize on something, it's too old. So personally, I think Helm charts are fairly good. I actually believe that CDK for Kubernetes is quite valuable. And Terraform seems to work in a lot of places as well.
Okay. Other question? Oh, here. Okay. Yeah, please keep questions ready. We have time.
Hello. I would like to ask a question to Dr. Feng regarding agentic AI, I guess. So you mentioned, I believe you mentioned the description that agents, AI agents, they need to have certain autonomy of decisions. And now you also mentioned right now in this panel that 95% of intelligence comes from LLMs, which are basically fundamental models. So what do you think about intelligence coming from interactions between those agents? Because so the way I understand agents not only have sensor ability, decision ability, and kind of actuators themselves, but they also have certain different attention to different things in the LLMs. So would you think that intelligence of the network comes from interaction between those agents? So it could be one of the reasons to make them interact?
I think before the larger foundation model, this recent couple months, so agents are defined like you have something, entity, and which can sense, which can make a decision, which can be autonomous on its own by interacting with certain environment. That's the key definition of agents. When it comes to this era of AI technology, so agents basically, I remember last year, that was like because you have the foundation model. The foundation model knows the generic knowledge, and then when you apply to a specific context, it doesn't have enough context. So basically you provide documents or some APIs or certain database access capabilities, and then you give prompt or instruction to the foundation model to ask the model to work in this specific environment, and people refer to that as agents. I'm thinking for this year, a lot has changed, and for example, the recent work from Google, they design scientific agents for scientific studies. So basically, you build another layer on top of foundation model, doing like a scientific hypothesis proposal. So you have agents to specialize on proposing that, and then you have another agent to do reflection on what you propose. And then you have another agency just to do comparison studies. So basically, build on different capabilities. You enhance the model in certain directions, and you have still have a concept environment to make it work. So I'm thinking as for if the agent technology also quickly improving, and also changes with the foundation model. I'm thinking it's come to our own network. We have to make the network talk and interact with AI using AI language, in the sense that AI become like a human-like entity. And when you converse with AI, and the network become an environment in total with AI. So how you gonna let the AI to sense the network? How then the AI to make decisions on top? So I'm thinking like the chain of thoughts. So when we do our network, when we do our designing, when we do our operating, so what's the deep thinking part? And then we can extract that, present that kind of thoughts, chains of thoughts, or chains of planning into data, which AI can process. And what kind of feedback we can provide to AI in a resilient and reliable way. So you have to, so AI has been the foundation has been quite intelligent. You need an environment which can talk the same language. That's, I think it's a must to really, you can take advantage of the potential of AI. AI is not only a language model now, it's multimodal. It also can do, it also can do data analytics. It also can debating. It also can do reasoning. It can do generation, can do quite a lot. So I'm thinking for going forward, many fields, many industries will focus on try to have your own environment, your own field, talk the AI language, at least for the coming year.
Wow, okay, great. A few more questions? Yeah, one more.
Hi. So, yeah, my question is, what does a network supplier such as Nokia or Ericsson get out of open networking? Or is it something more of a request from the network operators such as China Mobile or T-Mobile?
I'll start and then Jonne can finish it off. No, so I think it's a great question, and we ask ourselves that as well, or at least I mean representing Ericsson. We're a business entity and we have to do something for our shareholders. As Jonne mentioned earlier, we have standardization and we have open source as two main ways to harmonize. And I thought this morning actually about, in 2021, I traveled to, 2001, long time ago, I traveled to Silicon Valley. And on my way there, I met a colleague, and this was when Ericsson was making their own phones. And he said, oh, you're going to the US, here, borrow my phone. It's a prototype triple band phone. And I was very happy to get a new phone, of course. It was the R520 in gold with a big letter prototype and a paper which allowed me to bring it into the US. But during the night, the first night there, my dad called. Swedish time, middle of the night in San Jose, and I picked up just like this. I said my name, and he says, you sound a bit funny. But it's sort of, I had been struggling with ISDN modems home in Sweden at the time, etc., and it just struggled me. So, okay, so my dad called my Swedish number, and it relayed over the Atlantic, converted between European and American ISDN, shift the message all over the US continent, and then to my phone somewhere in San Jose. And it's sort of, wow, it worked. And we are today taking it for granted that things work, and harmonization is important. It's what's, the foundation for our industry. Open source is a fantastic innovation vehicle. And being able to collaborate with operators, other vendors, for things that have potentially a shorter implication. So standards are needed. When we are drafting 6G or 5G, parts of that has to have a very long lifetime and horizon. And we need to make investments that we can depend on, will bear fruit 10 years from now or so. And then we need to standardize interfaces, etc., as Jonne mentioned us earlier as well. But when it comes to agents, that 6 months it pops up, next month we'll have a new interpretation of the MCP, Model Context Protocol, and 2 months later we'll have something new. Standardization has a hard time to keep up. And open source is a fantastic way for us to try new ideas and collaborate around making it work. And a lot of people in Ericsson truly enjoy working with open source as well. That's another positive benefit from it. And we include the open source components into our commercial products, which means that the operators, they get what they want because they help build it and define it. And we get parts of it for free. And then we package it with a number of other components that make our solution hopefully competitive in the market. Jonne?
Yes, so very well said. So for us, so just starting from the beginning maybe, we've used open source for a very long time in our products. We had already products that were based on FreeBSD in the 90s, and we've had in the company, we've had our open source compliance program already since early 2000s, over 20 years. What I like to say is that practically all our products have some open source in them. Some of our products are based on open source. And the thing about open source is that there is, of course, the community of building software in a way that is that fosters innovation, is cost effective, builds, and that is something that why we're interested in some open source. So for instance, we use a lot of Linux in the company. We used to build our own operating systems. Nowadays, I don't think that that makes much sense because it's not just that you have better operating systems in open source, but those operating systems already have ecosystems with them. So when you have that, when you use that operating system like Linux, what we use a lot in our products, you can take a student out of this university and get them to work for you, and they know what to do. Before that, we had to basically train the people for 3 months or 6 months to operate or to program on our a proprietary operating system. Though that I think last week heard somebody said it was so nice at that time because you needed to be so good and so fully versed in this operating system that it was a question of, can something be done? But now everybody knows how to program on Linux, so there is always always discussion and arguments about how to do that. There was never that before because everybody knew that this is the only way to do that. But that is with open source, it's really building the ecosystem. So when we look at that, especially things like now in AI or cloud, that is something that is defined in open source. You cannot, in cloud, for instance, you cannot go and have a standard on that, or it doesn't make sense. You work on Kubernetes. You have to be compatible with the ecosystem. That is what you do. That's how the whole industry works. So it's not a question of pressure from customers. It is basically that's how the industry works. This doesn't take anything away from traditional standardization in the areas where that is strong, like in the 3GPP radio. But on these areas like AI or in cloud or so on, it is just how the industry works. So that's why we are here as well, and that's why we are in CNCF, and that's why we're interested in things like Nefio, is to do the things in the way that is compatible with the overall ecosystem. And that is, of course, our own telecommunication ecosystem, but it is also a bigger ecosystem around that as well, which is the whole cloud and cloud-native ecosystem as example.
Awesome. Thank you. One more here, and then maybe one final.
Okay. So I was asked to ask a very short question. So this is maybe Dr. Feng question. Industry has defined the autonomous network up to level 5, meaning full autonomy, right, with full self-heal and cognitive actions and so on. So is that, ever possible, considering the both legacy and the hybrid nature of the network? And second, is it more practical to do that level 5 kind of autonomy for something newer ones, like Edge or like AI RAN or like a 5G advanced above, than trying to do this on legacy, network, which may be very difficult to do or maybe close to impossible, right? So yeah, so that's the question.
Okay, can you? I didn't quite get the first question.
I think, is it possible to do level 5 autonomy on legacy networks, or is it better to do it on the new Edge or new RAN or whatever? Yeah.
That's tough. I really don't know the answer because I don't have the sheet in front of me. Just I think it's possible for level 5, and maybe we can push to 4 point something. I think for now, and we're trying to have AI to do more and more, and no one knows what's the upper bound limit. Most intelligence come from the foundation model. The intelligence of the foundation model come from data. And for moving forward, and we already used pretty much all the data open, available on internet. And the next bunch of data, the house of data is private data in each industry, each company, each individual. Is it right we, let the model suck into all those data, merge it together to get intelligence? That might challenge in something fundamentally we don't like for overall the society. And another way to get intelligence is let the model or AI agent to explore the network, explore the service, and it gets the feedback. So it's like extract intelligence from experiences. So I'm thinking deeply changing it in each industry is pretty hard. It's open questions where we can push that boundary. But myself, I'm thinking as AI as a technology which is quite different from any other technology. It's like a living being. It can explore on its own. It can improve on its own. The next question, I guess, many researchers are working on is what's the uniqueness of a human being, experts? What's the effective way of work with AI, and to get not just a 1+1, and you can get that best synergy out of it. Coming to network, I'm thinking there are many work you cannot do it autonomous if you have a perfect AI for now. There are many tasks you just have to do it. You have to have that human touch. So I'm thinking maybe in the near term you won't get to the level 5, but it will be above 4 definitely. Let's collectively think that.
Cool. All right. I think big round of applause for the governing board.